I'm president of the Bremerton Chamber of Commerce, and it's an honor to have you here this morning, this bright, beautiful morning. We have a couple of rules to the roll, but first of all, what? No, you're kidding. Serious? We happen to have a celebrity in the crowd today who's celebrating her birthday.
Oh, crap.
So, if you don't mind joining me in a quick round of happy birthday to none other than a military veteran who served this country proudly and with honor, Frank. So, 1, 2, 3, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Frank. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that being said, we are ready to rock and roll. And first off is that we have some rules of the road. For those who are new to us, first of all, in case of an emergency, exit doors are to your left or straight out of one of these doors. Bathrooms are down that hallway over there. If you happen to have brought with you one of these little rectangular things that makes noises, please turn it to silence or to vibrate. If it happens to go off while we're doing the candidate forum this morning, we're asking that you make a kind $10 contribution to one of our local nonprofits, and today's is
The YWCA.
the YWCA. So we're not going to hunt you down and track you on that, but if you will be an honor system for that. Second thing is, I'd like to ask that all audience members please hold your applause and all that good stuff until the very end. We'll give an opportunity for the participants to thank you for their joining us today. Now, for our participants today, for our candidates regarding the fast ferry system, first of all, the first rule is that we don't allow photography or filming of this event. It is actually being done for you and will be posted on the Chamber Facebook page, which will secure anywhere from 1 to 300 plus hits, is what we find out. This will probably be a popular item. Put that cameras away. Okay, second thing is the format is that each candidate will have 3 minutes to make their initial introduction about the event, about their position, and explain to you their stance and where they stand. Then we'll go into a question and answer period, of which you all, if you haven't already, you have little cards you can ask questions, and I'll try to get through as many questions as possible. We'll allow 1 minute per question, and then also we'll conclude with a 2-minute summary where the candidates will get 2 minutes to either summarize their position or to go back and do repeat a point that they want to make to share with you. The other point I want to share with you is that we actually have challenge cards. That's the salmon color in front of you. So if during the course of the discussion and your candidate says something that the opposing candidate says something that you really would like to challenge, raise that card and we will give you 1 minute to make a challenge to that. And then the candidate who's been challenged gets a 1 minute rebuttal. Oh, wait, they're starting already? Yeah. Oh, okay, so we're off to a fast start this morning. So with that being said, I think we're ready to rock and roll regarding today's topic, and a very timely topic at that has to do with the fast ferry system that's being proposed between Kitsap County and Seattle area. So I'm going to turn this over. First of all, we're going to do this alphabetically. So I think, Roy, you get to start. And we'll let you start with the microphone. 3 minutes.
Testing.
Oh, I forgot to remind you also, Frank here is our time master, and he's going to put that up when you have
30 seconds when you have your 3 minutes, 10 seconds for your 1 minute, and 20 seconds for your 2 minutes.
And when the red one comes up, then I got to come grab the mic and wrestle.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Am I in your field of view here?
You're perfect.
Well, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you to the Chamber for sponsoring this forum. I've been to a number of these. I'm not running for anything, by the way, Joe. I'm not a candidate, so just to correct you. I have been in public office, elective office in the past as a city councilman, including being the chair of the city of Hartford's finance committee. And that really forced me to sharpen my critical thinking skills, so to speak, to look at programs, look at expenses, look at revenues, look at the effect or the effectiveness of what local government does. So that's partly why I'm here. Anyway, well, let's get to the heart of the matter. So the proposal is to create a passenger-only fast ferry system, 3 routes, Bremerton, Kingston, and Southward. This has been attempted 2 times in the past as far as going to the voters for a sales tax increase to support it. And on both occasions, the voters have voted it down. Why did they do that? Well, I think people are concerned about increasing their taxes, considering all of the other obligations that our taxpayers have. I can give you a laundry list of those expenses that we're expected to pay for. But I think that they looked at the plans and they saw that the benefits to them, the benefits to Kitsap County, were going to be minimal to negative. And so, you know, I'd love to see I personally would love to see a high-speed cross-sound travel, but I don't think this plan will provide enough bang for the buck. I don't think it yields enough economic benefits. There's no crisis. We actually have a rather healthy ferry system, especially now. We're seeing a 55% fare box recovery out of Bremerton, the Washington State ferries. So I am concerned that creating a competing ferry service will reduce the sustainability of our existing ferry service. That's one of the points I want to make and emphasize. And I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit further. But so this is an expensive plan. It'll be $50 per capita per person in Kitsap County, 0.3%. It doesn't yield the economic benefits that we should expect from a program like this. This is a luxury service. This competes with existing ferry service. It's also environmentally not friendly. It actually, these fast ferries will consume at least twice as much fuel per passenger than the Washington State ferries. So those of you who are environmentally concerned about CO2 and all that, this doesn't make sense. That's the cost of pushing objects through the water at plus 30 knots. So anyways, we'll get into that. Thank you very much for being here. And I turn it over to my colleague, Guy.
Thank you, and Guy?
Thanks, Roy. I'm Guy Stitt. I came to the area in the late 70s as a submariner and fell in love with it. Got out of the Navy in San Diego and moved back. I spent my first 4 years commuting to Seattle working at Todd Shipyard as a test and trials engineer. And those were 12-hour days. Long commute, had to get down to the ferry and beat the traffic so that I could get a spot to get over to Seattle. So I'm familiar with the amount of time we give up from our life and our families commuting to Seattle. I own a business in town. All of my revenues are outside of the state, half of it outside of the country. But I live here because I love this place. I pay my taxes and I'm a net contributor to our overhead. So I'm here today providing the pro aspects of our fast ferry. And kind of in my heart, what I believe is this is about creating an environment where Kitsap County can help keep our kids and our grandkids here in the community. So what we've noticed over the last decades is our kids graduated from high school and went off to college. They tend to not come back. And we're trying to create an environment where our kids get raised here and stay here. One of the ways we did that is by creating a 4-year degree program. We have 5 of those down here in the county. And another one is making sure that we give our commuters to Seattle an effective process so that when our kids do graduate with these great degrees and do find high-paying jobs in Seattle, they can come and live here and easily commute to those jobs. So we're fortunate to live in Puget Sound. And unlike Minneapolis or Atlanta or Spokane, unfortunately we're surrounded by water. That's why we call it Puget Sound. So just like sister cities of San Francisco and New York and British Columbia, ferries are a way of life for us. And it's no wonder that here in Washington State, we have the nation's largest and most extensive ferry service. So the good news is there, from what I understand, there's a great number of folks in Kitsap that are already on board with a fast ferry service. In fact, a survey was recently conducted throughout Kitsap County and found that 62% of the people contacted were in favor of fast ferry. So stand by, Roy. You might have to deal with that. So in my mind, what I'd like to do is just kind of give you, there's a lot of misinformation about the ferry service that's being offered by a few outspoken antagonists. And so what I'd like to do is kind of clarify what we can expect from the ferries. First off, this is...
Sorry, not to
Done?
cut you off for right now, but we're going to start in with a lot of questions, and I think we'll probably get to some of these. And I'm going to let you start off, Guy, since we had Roy start with the introduction. So, Guy, first question goes to you. You get 1 minute response, and we have a wonderful audience with a diversity of questions, so this should keep you all happy. The first question is this ferry tax a direct promotion for Bremerton? Guy?
Yeah, so the sales tax is to help both Bremerton, Southworth, and Kingston. And when we look at the economics of the 14,000 people we have right now in Kitsap County, 1 out of 6 wage earners is commuting to Seattle. These people are adding about $500 to $700 million to our economy. And the difference in salaries in Seattle is about 70 million to 100 million a year. These people deserve to be treated. These people, these 14,000 people commuting, need our support. They are looking to spend more time with their families and less time commuting. And when we look at the Washington State ferry system, over the last decade, it is continuing cost increases and continuing reduction in service.
Thank you, sir. And Roy, your response to the question, is this ferry tax a direct promotion for Bremerton?
Well, I'm a Bremerton citizen, resident. I told you I used to be a city councilman here. So I support my city where I can, where it makes sense. And if you look at the plan, I mean, we have a vote, the RP1, and it's been stated in the plan that that will probably be used on the Bremerton Run because of the weight issue in rich passage. So that vessel was purpose designed to minimize the effective weight running through rich passage. The same issue does not affect Kingston or Southworth. So a different type of vessel will be looked at for those runs. A lot of the political push is coming from Bremerton, from the mayor of Bremerton, from folks in Port Orchard. You know, they see this as benefiting Bremerton and Port Orchard most directly. Ironically, the Washington State ferry run from Bremerton to Seattle has the lowest fare box recovery of the 3 routes. And we'll get into that a little bit further.
All right, hang on to that mic there, Roy. That was actually our introductory question, kind of a softball. The rest of these, really, the audience members are quite educated on this subject matter. So let's get into it, shall we? So, next question is, considering the incomes of the payers and the beneficiaries, would the tax be progressive or regressive in your opinion, and why?
Well, yeah, it's a sales tax that everybody in Kitsap County would have to pay on just about everything except for unprocessed food. There's some other exemptions as far as what sales tax is charged on. So sales tax is considered to be a regressive tax because it affects everyone at different income levels the same way, including folks who are living on the margins, low-income folks. Bremerton itself has a median household income of $38,000 to $39,000. So those folks will be heavily impacted. The counter argument is, well, they'll benefit the most because now we'll have 30-minute or 35-minute ferry service to Seattle. But I think that's a kind of a specious argument. Doesn't apply. Many of the folks commuting to Seattle are doing pretty well. I used to be a commuter to Seattle. But they're going to be subsidized by all of us at all income levels, and it is a regressive tax.
Thank you. And Guy, please.
Once again, when I look at the almost near $1 billion revenue that we generate from our commuters to Seattle, I think we owe it to our community to take care of our community. So what you've done is you're taking these 14,000 people and not arming them with the things they need to have a better quality of life living here in Kitsap. And yet at the same time, they're helping, and they are a major part of our tax base. So and when I look at the cost of the ferry system and the taxes, this turns out to be about maybe about $59 a year for the average individual. I think when we look at the returns we'll gain in tourism and greater ferry traffic, I'm excited about the impact of this.
Okay, and Guy, next question follow-up is, or actually, I just want to advise the audience, we have so many questions here, I keep you here till next week, Tuesday, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to try to get some of the highlight questions. This question is, how does taxing people here to help people get to Seattle faster, to spend their money out of our community, when the normal ferry is below capacity and will be run by King County, not Kitsap? There's a lot of pieces there, and I have to repeat that if you'd like.
No, the fact is the people are commuting to Seattle. They're not spending their money there. They're bringing that 12 to 16% higher salary money back to Kitsap. That money's being spent here. What we're trying to do is free up 3 hours out of their day and to give them the lifestyle they need to spend that money in Kitsap. So that's illogical. And the second half of the question was?
The normal ferry is below capacity and it'll be run by King County.
Yeah, and we're talking about an hour. So when I commuted to Seattle, it's a 12-hour ride. I look at Becky Erickson, the mayor, and her little post in Facebook about how she can go ride a half-hour ferry and take the light rail and be to the airport and back to Paulsbo in 2 hours. Well, that's really good for Becky Erickson, but how about the rest of us in Kingston, South Worth, and Bremerton? We want a half-hour ferry.
Thank you. All right, same question, please.
Right. Well, if you look at the plan, they've actually talked about extending the service hours to the off-peak hours and also providing Saturday service expressly to provide folks access to some of the amenities that Seattle has to offer. So it's not purely commuters. It's being portrayed as purely a commuter service, and that's not the case. Regarding King County, not only will some money be left in King County, with people attending amenities and things like that, but a big chunk of the money that will be collected will actually be spent on King County Marine Division, because King County Marine Division would be the organization providing much of the crews and much of the administrative support. So as far as direct jobs created, those direct jobs will be created in King County, not here in Kitsap. Doesn't make sense, folks. That's not logical, and it doesn't benefit this county.
Thank you. So this question goes to Roy to start us off, please. The question is, why can't private enterprise provide this service?
Well, really good question, Joe. Looking at history, this is another thing that the proponents talk about, is the mosquito fleet. This helps recreate the mosquito fleet. The mosquito fleet consisted of a number of small operators of vessels that served Kitsap County before the road system was put in. So they were private, they weren't government funded. Blackball was a private ferry company before it was purchased by the state. But what we've seen over time is that the state has created a monopoly through legislation to prevent other ferry operators, private ferry operators, from operating ferries within so many miles of existing ferry routes. The legislature had to grant special permission to Kitsap Transit to operate this passenger-only ferry. What I suggest, instead of creating a competing ferry service is actually reducing regulation to allow potentially private operators to get into the ferry business. And also water taxing is potential.
Thank you, sir. Guys, same question. Private enterprise.
Well, today, our state legislature controls our ferry system. And that state legislature includes everybody in eastern Washington, all the representatives statewide. And the fact is 75% of them don't really care about a ferry system because it doesn't impact. And so what we have here is we're kind of held at bay. And when we look at ourselves surrounded by water, if the Washington State legislature decides that ferries aren't important, where do you think we'll be? We will be losing a huge part of our economy to those people that are taking ferries to Seattle. And we don't have public ferries. We don't have private operating ferries. It's kind of been disallowed. So what we're trying to do is once again have this created so that we have alternatives. You know, when we look at New York and San Francisco, this also serves as an emergency asset. You look at 9/11 and the earthquakes in Seattle, these ferries serve as a safety.
Thank you, sir. Next question, and this goes to you, Guy. Good question. If the voters approve the tax measure and the passenger-only ferries fails, will the tax increase be rescinded?
If you go to the Kitsap Transit's website, they have a great deal of detail and depth on the passenger-only ferry plan. The passenger-only ferry plan, and I argued about this at one of the meetings, is very conservative. This thing is built on worst-case ridership, worst-case fuel pricing, high fuel pricing. And so as I look back, I feel that they've developed a very safe and plan that will start off with success. They've minimized every risk they possibly can. So for it failing, I doubt that's going to happen.
Thank you, sir. Roy?
Well, I don't think the question was answered. The question was, this plan goes into effect and it fails from an operational or business standpoint, what happens to the 0.3%? Does that go away? I don't know. The plan is silent about that. The elected officials that serve on the board of directors of Kitsap Transit did not discuss that. There's been no pledge to rescind that tax. I don't know that the tax can actually be used for anything else. I have to look at the legislation to see what was authorized, and I think that's kind of silent on that. So it's a big question mark. I mean, the real question is, are we creating another burden for our local taxpayers that we may or may not have control over? I mean, and so people go back, oh, it's our elected officials who control this. I don't know that one can trust the judgment of all of our elected officials all the time, so I just be very careful about that.
Thank you. All right, next question, going to Roy. The question is, how will all, underline all, taxpayers benefit from passenger-only ferry? Be specific, especially those rural taxpayers who seldom use the ferry service.
Well, yeah, that's really kind of the crux of the matter and goes to why this plan should not be approved, because the benefits to all of the taxpayers are, I think, actually negative. I think there's a net negative effect. You know, 0.3% will collect about $12 million a year with our current economy. Kitsap Transit, the board of directors, has stated that $1.5 million could be freed up from existing passenger-only ferry service to help improve routed bus service and maybe access service. That's been talked about, that's not guaranteed in writing, so that's been no firm commitment. Another $1.5 million will be shipped over to King County to provide employment for King County Marine Division, so I think that's a big negative. You know, we're essentially shoveling money outside the county, folks. Doesn't make sense.
Thank you, sir. Guys, any questions?
Can we repeat it again? Can we repeat it? Yes.
Yes. Great, thank you very much. I managed to misplace that question.
How will it affect all taxes?
So, once again,
How will it affect the rural taxpayers who seldom use the ferry? Thank you so much.
two ways in my mind. Number one, we need to look at the financial impact of people working in Seattle and living in Kitsap. Up to $1 billion in revenue. They're paying tax on that here in Kitsap. Secondly, this helps us in emergency assets. If the earthquake does actually occur, bridges fail, we have additional assets to help us provide supplies, water, goods to people that need it. We see that happening, we saw it happening in New York and in San Francisco. Military retention. One of the biggest issues for military retention here in Kitsap County is giving them quick access to the big city. And over the years, I've been involved in being an ambassador to the Navy for the state, and that has been a big problem for our young sailors. Secondly, this is about our children and our grandchildren and finding this environment suitable for them to stay here and live here and be with us.
Thank you, guys. All right, so follow-up question then to you would be, do you think Washington State Department of Transportation will continue in the future to cut runs to and from Bremerton?
They're driven by the state legislature. So what they'll do is, who knows? All I know is the 37 years I've been here is it is a declining service and the cost is increasing consistently. So I can just assume that ferry service has been cut throughout the whole system. Yeah. So.
Okay, thank you. And Roy, your response to the question, do you think that they will continue to cut runs in the future?
Well, it's interesting. I was involved, Larry Sequist, who created an alternative committee, Citizens Right Plan C for ferries, where we created a plan for rebuilding the ferry system after the 4 ferries were taken offline due to hull corrosion. We offered that to the legislature, and so hard to say. We have a lot of electeds who have been lobbying. The mayor of Bremerton has been very active in lobbying for retention of existing ferry service. Let me just tell you, the unintended consequence of establishing a competing ferry service will be to make the Washington State Ferry run, especially to Bremerton, less financially sustainable. I estimate that the fare box recovery will go down about 48% from 55% last year. Very healthy right now, and actually ridership is increasing. So that is a possible unintended consequence. And I see a lot of that happening, a lot of those unintended consequences of government policy.
Okay, and we have a challenge. Guy, 1 minute.
Washington State Ferry Systems makes over 90% of the revenue comes from automobiles and trucks, transportation of goods. That's their main focus. In fact, we see now how many times Washington State Ferry can't even handle all the people we want to put on the ferry. So I don't see this, the impact on them is minimal.
And Roy, would you like to, you have a minute to review this?
Right. Well, I've looked at the numbers. I looked at the numbers from Washington State Ferry, crunched the numbers. So the plan, the Passenger Way Fast Ferry plan from Bremerton would take about $2 million of revenue out of the Washington State Ferry revenue, and would reduce the fare box recovery from Bremerton. Now, Kingston is healthy. Kingston is 112% fare box recovery. Bainbridge, 99%, although there's no run proposed for Bainbridge. And Southworth is a little bit better than Bremerton. So the unintended consequence of creating a plan competing with existing ferry service is to make the existing ferry service financially unsustainable, and will actually encourage potential legislators to look at possible cuts. So we need to redouble our efforts to maintain our ferry service and improve the service.
Thank you. Okay, and back to our questions from the audience. Roy, question to you is, if you propose not to approve the passenger-only ferry plan, what do you offer as a viable option? or alternative.
Right, well, I just mentioned one, you know, continuing to work on the lobbying effort to maintain and improve our ferry service and hopefully the frequency of ferry service. You know, Kitsap Transit currently operates passenger-only ferry service between Bremerton and Port Orchard, both downtown Port Orchard and Annapolis. And that's one of the most successful parts of Kitsap Transit service. I've been analyzing the existing bus routes on Bainbridge Island. There are several routes that serve the south end of Bainbridge Island. There are also 3 points, public access points to the water, including White Point Dock. What if we were to expand the existing passenger-only ferry service to get people over to Bainbridge Island to meet those bus routes and get them to the Bainbridge Island ferry? What that would do is increase the frequency of Washington State ferries available to us here on the west side of the county. Also, we need to reduce the legislation or eliminate regulation that prohibits private operators from getting into the market.
Thank you. You guys, same question.
It sounds like the Becky Erickson plan. This passenger-only ferry system, there's one city that doesn't help, and that's Paulsboro. And so I'm a little concerned about that. Bainbridge Island is tired of all the traffic they have. They have 2,000 to 5,000 people traveling down their highway every morning trying to catch a ferry. So I think you're going to see Bainbridge Island is not interested in having more traffic on their highways. In fact, I think they're very interested in seeing the other 3 cities have a half-hour ferry service to Seattle, just like they do. The reason they have that traffic is they have a half-hour ferry to Seattle. So I think this idea is bad. We're going to take traffic off the road because we're going to remove this cross-island commuters we see heading to these shorter ferry routes.
Thank you, and you have a challenge. Roy, you have 1 minute, and you have 1 minute to rebuttal.
Right, I think it's ridiculous to think that this passenger-only fast ferry program would have any significant impact on the traffic on 305 going through Paulsboro onto Bainbridge Island. I mean, the numbers that this system will carry are so minimal, and it just doesn't make any sense. There's been no comprehensive discussion about transportation challenges, especially the 305 corridor, which is extremely problematic.